All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are going deep into anti-fragility. You
Ooh.
guys sent us excerpts from Nassim Taleb's book, Antifragile, things that gain from disorder.
It's a good one.
And let me tell you, this is not your typical self-help stuff.
No.
This is like next level thinking about how to actually benefit from
Benefit, yeah,
the crazy, unpredictable stuff life throws our way.
totally. It really challenges how we think about like progress and stability, We're always trying to make things better.
Yeah, always trying to optimize.
But better often means safer, more predictable.
More control.
Yeah, more control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like my crazy to-do list.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
always like, gotta add more, gotta optimize.
Mm-hmm.
But is that making me less able to handle the curveballs?
That's a great question.
Is that what Taleb means by fragile?
That's a great connection.
Okay.
Taleb says there are actually three categories.
Okay.
You got the fragile, the robust,
Uh-huh.
and the anti-fragile. So fragile things, those break under pressure.
Right.
Robust things can withstand shocks but don't really improve because of them.
Okay.
But the anti-fragile things, they get stronger
Whoa.
from disorder, volatility, even mistakes.
Okay, whoa. Okay, so give me a visual.
Yeah.
Help me wrap my brain around this whole anti-fragile thing.
Okay, think about like the mythical Hydra.
Okay.
You cut off one head, what happens?
And two more grow back.
Two more grow back.
Right.
Classic anti-fragility.
Okay.
It's not just surviving, it's using the attack to become even more powerful.
So it's not about having tough skin.
No.
It's about, like, using the hardship to your advantage.
Yes.
Like turning those lemons into lemonade.
Yeah.
Andy a lemon meringue pie.
Exactly. And you see this in the real world all the time.
Okay, where?
Okay, let's take the restaurant industry.
Okay.
Individual restaurants. Super fragile.
Right. Razor thin margins.
Razor thin, trends change constantly.
Yeah.
One bad Yelp review and you're gone.
You're done.
But the industry as a whole, anti-fragile.
Interesting. Okay.
Bad restaurants fail.
They get
Make
to
space for new concepts.
make room for the new.
New chefs trying crazy new ideas.
Right.
The whole system evolves, the quality goes up,
Because of that churn.
all because of this constant churn. Yeah.
So if we tried to, like, protect restaurants,
Right.
like prevent any from closing,
You would stifle the whole thing.
we'd actually end up with worse food,
Yes,
less innovation.
exactly. Stagnation is the enemy of anti-fragility. Think of it like weightlifting.
Okay.
You stress the muscles, they tear a little,
Right.
then they rebuild stronger.
Yeah. Gotta have that recovery.
That cycle of stress and recovery, that's key.
That's key. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's clicking for me.
Good.
But what about those things that seem really strong?
Right.
Like these huge corporations,
Yeah.
governments.
Huh.
Where do they fall on this triad?
Well, that's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Taleb argues that centralized systems, like those big corporations or nation states,
Yeah.
they're actually quite fragile,
Yeah.
despite appearances.
Ah.
They have a single point of failure.
Right.
If the CEO messes up or the government collapses, the whole thing can just crumble.
Right. And they're probably less adaptable too, right?
Exactly.
It's like a giant ship trying to turn on a dime.
Precisely. They don't have that built-in responsiveness that you see in more decentralized systems.
Okay.
Think ancient Greek city-states.
Yep.
If one messed up, the others learned from their mistakes,
Right.
adapted, and the overall system thrived because of that diversity.
So a little bit of chaos at the local level
Makes the whole thing stronger.
makes the whole system stronger.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But what about our personal lives?
Right.
Is there a danger in trying to eliminate all low risk, like control every outcome?
You bet.
Does that make US fragile?
Yes. And that's where the concept of iatrogenics comes in.
Iatrogenics.
Iatrogenics.
Okay.
It's a mouthful,
It is.
but it basically means harm caused by well-intentioned interventions.
So like trying to fix things that aren't actually broken
Exactly.
or overreacting to every little problem.
Yeah. Sometimes that can actually make things worse.
So sometimes the best thing to do is nothing.
Exactly. Sometimes letting things run their course,
Uh-huh.
allowing for those natural fluctuations,
Yeah.
that's the most anti-fragile approach.
Okay.
Think about over-medication.
Okay.
Sometimes those side effects are worse than the ailment itself.
Right.
Or overprotective parenting,
Oh, yeah?
shielding kids from every risk. We might prevent them from developing the skills they need
To handle it on their own.
to navigate the world on their own.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you never lift anything heavy,
Right.
your muscles atrophy.
Exactly.
You need that stress to grow stronger.
Yeah, you need that stress.
But how do we know
Right.
when to intervene?
When to intervene.
And when to back off?
That's the question.
How do we tell the difference between like a real threat and something that might actually make us stronger in the long run?
That is where it gets really tricky.
Okay.
And to illustrate this, Taleb brings up what he calls the turkey problem.
The turkey problem.
The
turkey problem.
I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
All right, imagine a turkey being raised on a farm.
Oh,
Every day, the farmer comes, feeds it, takes care of it.
Turkey's living the good life.
Turkey's feeling secure, happy, loved.
Yeah.
Each day that passes, it reinforces this belief.
Right.
Until one day, Thanksgiving arrives.
Oh, no. Poor turkey.
Right.
So the takeaway here is that just because things have been good for a while doesn't mean we're actually safe.
Exactly.
We could be living in a turkey problem without even realizing it.
That's right. We often mistake the absence of evidence for the evidence of absence. Just because we haven't seen a negative event doesn't mean it can't happen.
Right.
And this applies to so many areas of life, from our investments to our relationships to our careers.
So how do we avoid being that Thanksgiving turkey?
Right.
How do we tell the difference between genuine security
and that false sense of safety?
Well, Taleb offers a powerful concept called skin in the game.
Skin in the game.
It basically means that people making decisions should have something to lose if things go wrong.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're the one bearing the risk, you're going to be a lot more careful.
We're not going to be so reckless.
So, like, those bankers who caused the 2008 crash, they didn't have enough skin in the game.
Not nearly enough.
They were gambling with other people's money.
Exactly. That's a great example.
Yeah.
And that lack of skin in the game created a huge moral hazard.
Yeah.
Encouraged reckless behavior because they weren't the ones who would suffer the consequences.
So more skin in the game
leads to more responsible decisions.
More anti-fragility in the system.
Exactly. And we see this principle at play throughout history.
Okay, like where?
Think about Roman soldiers signing a sacramentum, accepting punishment if they failed in their duty.
Wow.
Or entrepreneurs risking their own capital.
Putting their money where their mouth is.
To start a business.
Right.
Or even doctors taking the Hippocratic Oath.
Do no harm.
Pledging to do no harm. These are all forms of skin in the game.
It's about accountability, right?
Yes.
Ensuring that actions have consequences.
Yeah.
But how do we apply this to our own lives? It's not like I'm building aqueducts or leading armies into battle.
True. But even in everyday decision-making, we can ask ourselves, am I really considering the potential downsides?
Yeah.
Am I only focused on the upside?
Yeah.
While someone else, LC, bears the risk if things go wrong?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a really good question to ask ourselves.
It is.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the potential gains without fully considering the risk involved.
Yeah, you can get tunnel vision.
But, you know, I think there's another side to this, too. Sometimes we're so afraid of making the wrong choice of any risk that we end up doing nothing at all.
Oh, yeah.
Is that another form of fragility?
Absolutely. Taleb talks about this. This tendency to overthink and overanalyze. Especially when we have so much information at our fingertips. It can lead to analysis paralysis, which can be just as harmful as making a reckless decision.
So how do we strike that balance? How do we become more comfortable with uncertainty and calculated risk-taking? Without becoming reckless?
That's where Taleb introduces what he calls the barbell strategy.
Okay, the barbell strategy.
This barbell strategy, it's a way to kind of domesticate uncertainty by combining extreme risk aversion in some areas with extreme risk-taking in others while avoiding that fragile middle ground.
I'm picturing a barbell, weights on either end, but nothing in the middle.
Exactly.
So it's not about finding a perfect balance, but strategic imbalance.
Exactly. Think of it like a financial portfolio. You could put 90% of your money in ultra-safe assets like cash or government bonds. And then take the remaining 10% and invest it in high-risk, high-reward ventures.
Interesting.
You're protected from catastrophic loss on one side, but still open to potentially huge gains on the other.
So kind of like hedging your bets, but in a more extreme way.
In a more strategic way,
Yeah. But how does this translate to like our lifestyle choices or our careers?
Right.
I mean, I'm not exactly managing a hedge fund here.
It's more about the mindset.
Okay.
Imagine a lifestyle where you have a stable, disciplined routine for work.
Okay.
But you also carve out time
Yeah.
for bursts of intense adventure, creative exploration,
Okay.
or even just trying something completely new outside your comfort zone.
So like having a solid foundation, but also allowing yourself to experiment, to push boundaries, to take those calculated leaps of faith.
Exactly. Or think about learning. You can master those foundational skills in your chosen field, but then also explore diverse, seemingly unrelated areas that spark your curiosity. You never know how those seemingly disparate pieces of knowledge might connect down the road and lead to a breakthrough.
This is really making me rethink how I approach, well, everything. Instead of always trying to find the perfect path or the safest option, maybe I should be embracing a bit more of that strategic imbalance, that combination of stability and exploration. But I have to admit, sometimes I get so caught up in the how-to, the practical steps, that I forget to step back and consider the bigger picture.
That's an important point. Taleb actually addresses this through two very colorful characters that he created. Nero Tulip and Fat Tony.
Oh, yes. I remember these guys from the book.
Yes.
They're like the angel and devil on Taleb's shoulders. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, but remind me, who's who again?
Okay, so Nero is like the erudite scholar. The lover of books and intellectual pursuits. He represents that narrated knowledge we get from studying, reading.
So Nero is the head.
The head?
The intellect.
The intellect, and Fat Tony.
Yeah, Fat Tony is.
Fat Tony is like the street-smart businessman. Operating on gut instinct, experience, and an intimate understanding of how the world really works. He embodies that non-narrated knowledge. The kind you can't learn from a textbook.
So he's the heart.
The heart.
The intuition.
The intuition.
Okay, but why are these characters so important to understanding antifragility?
Because Taleb argues that we often overvalue the narrated, the theoretical, while undervaluing the practical wisdom that comes from experience, from trial and error, from having skin in the game.
So Nero might know all the theories, but Fat Tony knows how to actually apply them.
Exactly.
In the messy reality of the world.
In the real world.
And it's that practical application, that willingness to get your hands dirty. To learn from your mistakes that builds antifragility.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the limitations of purely theoretical knowledge and being open to learning from unexpected sources. It's about being willing to experiment, to take those calculated risks. To learn from your mistakes and adapt quickly.
So bringing a little more Fat Tony into our lives.
A little more Fat Tony?
Could make us more anti-fragile.
Could definitely make us more anti-fragile.
But how do we do that? Especially for those of us who tend to be more Nero by nature.
It starts with recognizing the limitations of our own knowledge. And being open to being wrong.
Which is hard.
Which is hard, yes.
That's some of us.
For some of us more than others.
More than others.
But it's about embracing the messy reality of trial and error. About stepping outside our comfort zones. Challenging the status quo.
So less overthinking, more doing.
Yes. More trusting our gut. Even if it goes against what the experts say.
Sometimes.
In a way, yes. But it's not about blindly following your gut. It's about integrating that intuitive wisdom with your analytical mind.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Between
Nero and Fat Tony.
That makes sense. Like Nero can help us understand the theory. But Fat Tony can show us how to put it into practice.
The application.
How to adapt it to the real world.
The real world.
And by integrating those two perspectives, we can become more adaptable. More resilient.
More resilient.
More anti-fragile.
More anti-fragile. Exactly. And that's why Taleb emphasizes the importance of skin in the game. It's that real world feedback loop, that connection between actions and consequences that helps us refine our understanding and make better decisions.
Okay, so we've got the triad, iatrogenics, the turkey problem.
We've got a lot.
Skin in the game, the barbell strategy. And now Nero and Fat Tony.
It's a lot to digest.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But I think it's time to get even more specific.
Okay.
Can you give me a concrete example from the book
Sure.
that really brings this anti-fragile thinking to life? One of the most striking examples is Taleb's analysis of political systems.
Okay.
He contrasts the fragility of centralized nation-states
Right.
with the anti-fragility of decentralized systems like city-states.
Okay, I remember this from the book.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of ancient Greece, right?
Big fan.
But remind me, why are centralized systems inherently more fragile?
Because they have a single point of failure.
Oh, well.
If something goes wrong at the top,
Right.
the whole system can collapse.
And they're also less adaptable to changing circumstances, right?
Exactly.
Because decisions are made by a small group of people far removed from the real-world consequences of their actions.
Far removed.
So they lack that vital skin in the game.
They lack that skin in the game.
That we talked about earlier.
And
this makes them vulnerable to those black swan events.
Yes.
Those unpredictable, high-impact events that can completely upend the established order.
Totally.
Makes sense. It's like that giant ship analogy again.
Yeah.
Slow to turn, slow to react. And if it hits an iceberg, the whole thing goes down.
The whole thing goes down.
But how are decentralized systems different?
Think of ancient Greek city-states.
Okay.
Or even modern Switzerland.
Right.
These systems are more resilient because they have multiple points of power and decision-making.
Right.
If one city-state fails, the others can learn from its mistakes.
Right.
Adapt.
And keep going.
And the overall system thrives because of that diversity.
So it's like that restaurant industry example we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
A little bit of churn at the local level.
Makes the whole system stronger.
Actually makes the overall system stronger and more adaptable.
More adaptable, yeah.
But what about those of us who aren't in a position to restructure political systems?
Right.
How can we apply these ideas to our own lives and work?
That's a great question. And Taleb offers a number of practical strategies for domesticating uncertainty and building more anti-fragility into our own lives. One of the most powerful is cultivating what he calls optionality.
Optionality.
Creating more choices and possibilities for yourself.
Okay.
So you're not locked into a single path.
Right.
That could be disrupted by unpredictable events.
Optionality. I like that.
Yeah.
Like having more tools in your toolbox, more arrows in your quiver.
Exactly.
But can you give me some specific examples?
Absolutely. It can apply to everything from your career choices to your investment strategy to your personal relationships. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, you diversify your skills, your experiences, your networks, your investments.
So you create a portfolio of options.
You create a portfolio of options that can help you weather any storm.
So instead of specializing in one very narrow field, maybe I should be learning a variety of skills.
A variety of skills.
Even if they seem unrelated.
Even if they seem unrelated.
Or instead of sticking with one type of investment,
right,
maybe I should explore different asset classes.
Different strategies.
Different strategies.
Exactly. It's about being adaptable, being able to pivot when circumstances change.
Right.
And it doesn't mean being reckless or jumping into everything that comes along.
Right.
It's about calculated risk-taking.
Yeah.
About exploring new possibilities.
Yeah.
While also having a solid foundation of core skills and values.
So it's like that barbell strategy again.
It is.
Balancing stability with exploration.
Exactly.
Security with risk-taking.
You got it. And another key strategy is to embrace via negativa.
Via negativa.
The power of subtraction.
Okay.
By removing the harmful, the unnecessary, the unnatural elements from our lives and work.
Oh, I like this one. I'm a big fan of simplifying, decluttering.
Yes.
Sometimes less is truly more.
Absolutely. It's about focusing on what we can eliminate rather than constantly adding more.
Right.
And this can apply to everything from our diets to our schedules to our social media consumption.
So less processed food, fewer pointless meetings.
Yes.
Less time scrolling through Instagram.
Exactly.
More time for the things that truly matter.
For the things that truly matter.
I can definitely get behind that.
Good. And by embracing the subtractive approach, we create more space for serendipity, for those unexpected opportunities that often lead to the most meaningful growth and breakthroughs.
This is so empowering. It's like instead of being afraid of uncertainty, we can actually learn to benefit from it, to use it to our advantage.
To use it to our advantage.
But I have to admit, I'm also wondering about the ethical side of this.
Okay.
What if some people are benefiting from disorder while others are being harmed?
That's an excellent point. Antifragility is not just about personal gain.
Okay.
It has deep ethical implications.
Right. Because if someone's gaining an advantage by exploiting a volatile situation, That doesn't seem very fair or just...
Exactly. And Taleb addresses this directly in his book. He argues that true anti-fragility should not come at the expense of others.
So it's not about exploiting volatility for personal gain,
No.
but about building systems
Yeah.
that are resilient and beneficial for everyone.
Precisely. And this brings us back to the concept of skin in the game.
Okay.
When people have something to lose if their decisions harm others,
Yeah.
it creates a powerful incentive for ethical behavior.
It's about aligning incentives. Making sure that those who benefit from a system are also accountable for its risks.
Accountable for its risks.
So like if a bank gets bailed out by the government after making risky bets,
yes,
that's a violation of skin in the game.
That's a perfect example.
Because they weren't the ones who ultimately suffer the consequences.
Exactly. And Taleb argues that this kind of moral hazard actually makes the system more fragile in the long run.
It encourages that reckless behavior.
It encourages reckless behavior.
And creates an unfair advantage for those at the top. So true anti-fragility, both on an individual and societal level, requires ethical behavior, accountability, and a commitment to building systems that benefit everyone.
Everyone.
Not just a select few.
Precisely. It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive in the face of uncertainty, not just those who are already in a position of power.
That's such an important point.
It is.
Because anti-fragility, when applied ethically, has the potential to create a more just, equitable, and resilient world for all.
And conversely, when anti-fragility is exploited for selfish gain, it can lead to greater inequality, fragility,
and systemic risk.
So
the ethical implications of this concept are huge.
They are.
It's not just about making ourselves more resilient. It's about building a world where everyone has the opportunity to benefit from anti-fragility.
Exactly. And that requires a commitment to fairness, accountability, and shared responsibility for the risks and rewards of our interconnected systems.
Yeah, this has been an incredible exploration.
It has.
And I want to thank our listener for sending us this fascinating material.
Me too.
I have a feeling these anti-fragile principles are going to stick with me for a long time.
Me too. It's a powerful framework for understanding the world and for making more informed, resilient, and ethical decisions in all aspects of our lives.
This deep dive into anti-fragility has been like a wild ride.
It really makes you question a lot of assumptions we take for granted about success, progress, even just
how we approach life.
Exactly.
And while we've, just scratched the surface of Taleb's work, I feel like we've unearthed some seriously valuable nuggets of wisdom. So let's try to distill some key takeaways for our listeners.
Okay.
What are those actionable insights they can walk away with today?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is recognizing that fragility is everywhere. It's in our institutions, our systems.
Our thinking.
Our own thinking,
It's about becoming aware of those areas where we're trying to control too much, eliminate all risk, and, ironically, making ourselves more vulnerable in the process. So we need to shift our perspective on uncertainty.
How so?
Instead of fearing it, we need to see it as an essential ingredient for growth. Innovation, progress.
Yeah. It's like that saying, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor.
Oh, I like that.
We need those rough waters.
To
test our mettle.
And develop that resilience.
Exactly. And that leads us to the third takeaway.
Okay, what's that?
Cultivating optionality. In every area of our lives.
Having more choices.
More
possibilities.
More tools in our toolbox.
More arrows in our quiver, so to speak.
So we can adapt to whatever curveballs life throws our way.
And that brings us to the fourth takeaway.
What's that?
Embracing via negativa. The power of subtraction.
Simplifying, decluttering.
Simplifying our lives.
Yes.
Removing the unnecessary clutter.
And
focusing on what truly matters. It's amazing how much lighter and freer we feel.
I know, right?
When we let go of all that excess baggage.
Absolutely. And finally, it's crucial to remember that anti-fragility isn't just about personal gain. It has profound ethical implications.
It's about building systems that are resilient and beneficial for everyone. Not just a select few. It's about having skin in the game. Aligning incentives with actions.
Right.
And taking responsibility for the consequences of our choices.
It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Yeah.
In the face of uncertainty, not just those who are already in a position of power.
This has been such an incredible exploration.
It has.
And I want to thank our listener.
I second that.
For sending us this fascinating material.
Fascinating.
I have a feeling these anti-fragile principles are going to stick with me for a long time.
Me too. It's a powerful framework.
It is?
For understanding the world.
And for making more informed, resilient, and ethical decisions.
Ethical decisions.
In all aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
So listener, as you go forth into the world.
Go forth.
Remember to embrace uncertainty. Cultivate optionality. Simplify your life. And act with integrity. And as Taleb reminds us, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Indeed. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If anti-fragility is about benefiting from disorder and volatility,
right,
could there be situations where embracing a certain level of disruption, even if it's uncomfortable in the short term, might actually lead to a more resilient and beneficial system in the long run?
That's a great question to consider.
It is.
It challenges us to look beyond our immediate comfort. And consider the potential long-term benefits of embracing a bit of chaos and change. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Into the fascinating world of anti-fragility.
It's fascinating.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.